PS5 you should look out for. Is the next PS5 showcase happening sooner than you think? And the final big PS5 update looks like it's on the horizon. How's it going, everyone? Welcome to PSReady. This is the second weekly news show where I look around the entire internet and find the biggest PlayStation news stories. Today, we've got some really cool stuff to talk about, starting with The Last of Us Part 1, which is right around the corner. The review copies are out there. There's gameplay coming out, and I was not prepared for how much better this game looks. Obviously, the textures, the environments, they've all been cleaned up and up-resed and rebuilt from the ground up, as Sony loves to put it, and it looks really good. But where you really see why this remake, I guess, is justified is in people's face animations. Now, I think it would be less impressive if these were like one-to-one characters, like, you know, when Rosario Dawson shows up in Dying Light 2 and you're like, oh, you're not just Rosario Dawson, you're supposed to be playing a character. If it was like that, it'd be a little less impressive, but these are characters where you have Ashley Johnson, who's like an adult, and then you turn her into Ellie, who's a child, or Troy Baker, who has a completely different build than Joel, and then you look at these characters in the game, and they look like real human beings. It's giving me that Uncanny Valley vibe, but it still looks like it's got a stylized look to it that makes it not look creepy. The gameplay they released is from Billstown, and that was a really strategic move, because if you go back and look at the videos where I was talking about the old remaster of The Last of Us that came out on PS4, that was the section of the game that I was saying where you can really see why they needed to do a remake like this. Because when you're coming into Billstown, you're on a little foresty path, and you can see that they rendered the 3D assets for the path you're on. But if you look a little too far to the left or the right, or even in the background, it almost looks like a 2D asset that they have outside the actual path you're walking on. And so knowing that that's one of the most glaring graphical problems, just like age created a problem there in the game, in the last remaster, it's cool to see that in the remake, they've completely rebuilt it, and you can totally see the difference. Where I'm still kind of feeling a little nervous about The Last of Us Part 1 is how updated the gameplay is going to be. There were leaks that said it had no improvements. There have been other leaks that said it has minor improvements. There have even been leaks that say it has major improvements. So this seems like a situation where we're just gonna have to wait and play it ourselves. I'm still a little iffy on the fact that it's $70 for just the single player, even though it is completely rebuilt. I think they're justifying it a little bit better with these facial animations alone, but still, I think it's a little bit overpriced. I'm gonna buy it day one because this is one of my favorite games of all time. But if you're looking at this and God of War Ragnarok and you choose Ragnarok as your pre-order, I wouldn't fault you in any way, because you know this is gonna drop in price in just a few months. I mean, even the last remaster that came out on PS4, I was able to get that for like $10 within a couple of months of it releasing. So regardless, if this isn't something you're dying to play day one, I would maybe just wait and see if the price falls by like Black Friday or something like that. So the first time I recorded this video, there was a whole section about speculation on PS Plus games, but since I recorded it, the PS Plus games have been announced. So if you have Essential, you're getting Need for Speed Heat, which is honestly a decent racing game. You're also getting Grand Blue Fantasy Versus and Toem, a photo adventure. All of these games are decent, right? Like the Essential month, not amazing. I was talking about the Extra and Premium tier, because if you have Extra, you're getting Watch Dogs 2, Assassin's Creed Origins, Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2, Chicory, A Colorful Tale, and then the biggest headline game you're going to get is Deathloop, which is not even a year old at the time I'm making this video. It's about to be a year old, and the reason it's cool this is going to be on PS Plus is that this is a full-on next-gen PS5 game. It was only available on PS5 and PC when it came out, and on top of that, because it's reaching that year of being out, Sony's exclusivity window is ending, and Xbox will probably be getting this game at full price on Game Pass. So even though it's going to be on Game Pass for free, like with your subscription, you would have to pay full price or a discounted price if you can find it on sale to get it on PlayStation 5. So it's really cool to see Sony matching Microsoft here and giving us this game for free. And I think a lot of people probably haven't played this game. I've recommended it a ton. I 100%ed it last fall after it came out. It's like one of my favorite games ever, and I can't wait to play it again. I'm assuming that once it comes to Xbox, it's going to get some sort of big patch that might have a new new game plus mode, maybe some DLC. There are even more premium and extra games getting added to the library of games you can download at any time. But yeah, if you haven't played Deathloop, I highly recommend checking it out. But getting a next-gen game the year after it comes out, right before it comes to Game Pass for free, that's a pretty good look for Sony right after they got a pretty bad look, which was releasing this lighter PS5 and also raising the price on it. But yeah, sticking with the future of PlayStation here, the current beta that we have right now has some really good features in it that we've been requesting for a long time, like 1440p support. And all we're really looking forward to at this point is themes for the console, potentially a web browser, and of course Discord natively coming to the PlayStation 5, because I don't know, you're never gonna convince me that it's not weird that Sony, not Microsoft, invested a huge chunk of money into Discord and Xbox ended up getting that feature first. The silver lining there, of course, is that it's like an alpha, insider, whatever preview build that you have to get on your Xbox to actually get access to Discord. So you could be waiting like 6 to 8 months at the longest, or even the shortest, to get Discord on your actual Xbox if you're just a normal person who went out to the store and bought one, or even got into like one of the other beta programs they have. That's one of the nicest things about having a PS5. There's not like 15 different programs you have to get into to test out new features. You have the main software, and then you have a code you punch into the PlayStation Store for a beta, and their betas are usually pretty well baked. Like I'm using the beta right now, and I have had virtually zero issues with it. I cannot say the same thing about my Xbox Series X or my PC. I'm in the insider build of Windows 11 on PC, and I had to get out of it because it seemed like every other update would critically break at least one or two of the games I was playing. So I don't need to be in that far ahead of a beta on any of my devices because I want to actually be able to sit down and use them instead of doing troubleshooting and other weird tech support issues that I don't want to have to deal with after work. That's the whole gist of what I'm saying. So you've got the silver lining that even though Discord came to Xbox first, their users could be waiting a long time to actually be able to take advantage of it, whereas the rumors are saying we are going to have it in the normal PlayStation update, or at least a new beta by the end of the year. And today we got even more news that suggests we could be getting this last big PS5 update by the end of the year, including Discord and a new feature where you're going to be able to ask your PlayStation to help you in game. So if you're The Last of Us Part 2, you're playing through the TV station and you just can't beat this fight because there's so many enemies that can kill you in one shot, especially if you're playing on grounded like I usually do, you can just say hey to your PlayStation and be like, I need help in this spot, and it could pull up a YouTube video or something like that that shows you a tutorial on that mission. Another thing that I think would be really useful with a feature like this is if you're stuck on a last boss in a raid in Destiny, like if you're fighting Rolk or you're fighting Oryx the Taken King and you just don't know what you're supposed to do there, you can just yell at your PlayStation to pull up a video real quick on giving you a better build or a tip you need in fighting that boss. It sounds like marketing when you put it like that, but that seems like a really cool way to find utility in a feature like this, because I'm telling you right now, I do not use the PlayStation Siri, and when I accidentally activate it when I'm playing Destiny or Fortnite with my friends, I am like screaming shut up PlayStation at it to get it to stop talking in my ear. It's really irritating. I don't even like the feature that much. I'm probably gonna go into the settings and turn it off when I get home because I just made myself annoyed talking about it. So that is a cool improvement they could include in this final quote unquote PS5 update. But yeah, I'd really like to see themes as well. And you know, it's time that we finally get a web browser on this machine. If they can add that, then we're pretty much done with the big updates. And that's a weird spot to be in because I feel like it was just a couple months ago that the PS5 wasn't even out. And now it's like 2 years in and we have every feature we could have ever asked for. It's a good time to own a PS5 because we're finally getting PS5 games. Next up, let's talk about this showcase that's supposedly coming next week. The actual date that we could be seeing it is September 8th. And the reason people are thinking about it that way is because, of course, we're supposedly going to get the announcement tomorrow, August 31st, or maybe a couple days after, or at the very least, that could be when we get the announcement of the PlayStation Plus games. And those PlayStation Plus games will supposedly drop on September 6th, so that'll be a good way to get people hyped for an event on September 8th. I don't really get the math here. That's just what all the articles I'm seeing are saying that this rumored event basically has to happen around that time if it's going to happen at all. My opinion is that it could happen anytime within September and we'd be just fine. As for what we could see at this event, I think it would be a great time to really actually show off the Last of Us multiplayer game. They showed us some concept art at the last Jeff Keighley event and it looked cool, I guess. Like, we know it's taking place in San Francisco. It's just like, man, Last of Us Part 2 came out years ago at this point, and we've been waiting a really long time for that multiplayer that they thought was so good that they had to remove it from The Last of Us Part 2, but still charge charge us $60 for that game. So we've been waiting quite a while for this, and the burden of not having any multiplayer is really rearing its head once again with The Last of Us Part 1, because we are paying $70 for that game and just getting the single player campaign. So knowing that that's coming out September 16th, if we had an announcement on September 8th where they're like, yep, you're getting this full-on single player on September 16th, you just have to wait a little bit longer to get the free multiplayer version of the game just a few months later, that would be a good way to kind of quell some of the annoyances that fans are having with The Last of Us Part 1. As far as PC ports go, they have a lot of them that they need to talk about. The Uncharted Legacy of Thieves collection was allegedly supposed to be out in June, and that is nowhere to be found. It would be a great time to get a release date for that on PC. We know Returnal is basically done because there have been gameplay videos and screenshots of that game running on PC. They've even uploaded all of the necessary files and artwork to advertise that that game is verified for Steam Deck, just like Spider-Man was. Ghost of Tsushima is a game we have been waiting a long time for over on PC because it leaked so long ago in the Nvidia leak, and if that was to be believed, it was supposed to be out last February. Like February 2022 was when that game was supposed to come out on PC, and it is nowhere to be found. Now seems like a good time to announce that, and also maybe Ghost of Tsushima 2, because we know that Sucker Punch is working on that, and there's a movie coming out relatively soon. It seems like a good time to start spinning up the marketing for Ghost of Tsushima 2. Of course, we also have that Disney showcase coming up, so I feel like Spider-Man 2 and Wolverine are going to be shown off there, if at all. But if they are shown off there, we could get a teaser for them at this big PlayStation showcase, because obviously Spider-Man 2 is one of the biggest PS5 games we have to look forward to pretty much across the board. Either way, just because they've done a showcase the last 2 years, I think they're probably going to do one this September. There's a lot of games we need updates on, and September is just a good time to do it because it's like the last month before the big holiday stuff starts, where people are really looking for a PS5 to give someone for Christmas, or they're looking for the big games like The Last of Us Part 1 and God of War Ragnarok. Like, both of those games are going to be out before we even know it. So September, that's the perfect time to do a showcase and really get people excited about PlayStation 5 going into the end of the year. And then the last story I have for you guys today is, of course, about this new lighter PS5. Sony is really taking it hard on the PR side of things, because not only did they make a PS5 that's cheaper to produce, at the exact same time it seems like they're releasing it into the wild, they raised the price that consumers have to pay for this device at the store, which I don't really know how there is a good way to spin that. It just seems like needlessly petty, and the only real excuse they have is that this new PS5 that they're releasing out into the wild right now has been in the works for months now. Like, I remember a few months ago is when I talked about the patent leaking for this new slimmer PS5 that's lighter on the inside because they're using smaller parts. It's just like another example of Sony not really understanding what's going on in different divisions internally, because obviously one division was like, oh, we got to raise the price of the PS5 in every region except for America, and another division was like, oh, it just happens to be when we're releasing this new lighter PS5. So with PS5s as hard to get as they are right now, and there being different parts in different PS5s, whether you're getting a disc edition, a digital edition, and now this new layer of there being really 6 different PS5s out in the wild, which one should you be looking for? If you take the launch PS5 and compare that to the one Austin and I looked at last year, and now this new PS5, which seems like an even bigger revision on that second PS5, my advice would be do your best to find one of the launch edition PS5s, because by all accounts, even though this new heatsink they're using in the second revision, or whatever they did to make this third revision lighter, doesn't really affect performance at all in the short term, having a PS5 like the launch one that overcompensates for the cooling it needs to do on both the SSD and the rest of the internal parts, you really can't go wrong. Like, you want your console to be overcooled versus just adequately cooled, because if the thing's running hot all the time, that shortens the lifespan of your PS5. I have a launch PS5, and unlike my PS4 and my PS4 Pro, that thing is still going strong. It doesn't sound like a jet engine. It boots up right away. It's just working exactly like it did the first day I got it. I am totally happy with my launch day PS5. But if you're someone who has a ton of games on disc, you don't really want to go out and buy a new SSD to be able to download all your games, because remember, you only have just over 600 gigabytes of usable storage on the PS5, and that fills up really fast. I think the disc edition, whichever model you see in the store, would probably be the way to go, because you have all your games on disc, and if you end up deleting them, you still have that install you can do off the disc, which is a lot faster than downloading the entire game from the cloud in the long run. Or your third option here is you could always just wait it out and get the PS5 Slim and PS5 Pro. That could be a good time for Sony to readjust the price once again, get the main model, you know, the PS5 Slim with the disc drive at $500 instead of the inflated price, which ends up being like 30 to 50 US dollars equivalent more, depending on what country you buy it in. You could get a little bit of a discount on the Slim model, and I think that's probably when you're gonna start seeing special editions of the console as well. And of course, at that point, they could also drop the price to around $350 or $400 and then give us a PS5 Pro at $500 or $550, and that would seem like a much better value proposition than overpaying for the PS5 like you could be doing right now. We're 2 years into this console's life cycle. We're getting to the point where we saw the announcement, or at least a lot of leaks surrounding the PS4 Pro and that console's life cycle. So I wouldn't be surprised if we did see it pretty soon after the PSVR 2's launch, because you know, nothing screams buy a PSVR 2 like announcing a console that can run the games even better.